Well, hello, welcome back. Thanks for joining me today. I'm making a Spooky-Lotl for my Axolotls collaboration. I'm off camera right now, so sorry. I've poured a little bit of regular setting 1:1 epoxy resin into this axolotl, and it does go into its little gills. And I was just squeezing them because bubbles love to hide in there. I set aside some of the resin, and to that I am adding the black Let's Resin alcohol ink, and I will give that a really good stir.
3 days later.
Okay, I do eventually finish stirring. What I am doing with this resin is I'm dotting it in there, and you can see I'm swirling it around. I want this to look like creepy smoke. And this resin has been sitting for quite a while, so it's a little bit thick. That way the alcohol ink resin doesn't just dissipate and mix in. I do kind of a lot of this because I want to make sure you can see it. I do wish I had used more black alcohol ink or maybe black epoxy resin dye instead. I didn't want to use the resin dye because I thought it might be a little bit heavy and I didn't want it just sinking to the bottom of the mold. It still looks cool, but I think it would have looked even cooler had it been a little more of a solid black color. Once I'm done with that, this will go into my curing machine for a couple of hours. While that's curing, we are going to be making some bones and a skull to go in it. I use white epoxy dye for this. I want to make sure this is pretty opaque. I don't want it to be bright white though, because if you look at bones, they aren't. So I decide I'm going to add some of this alcohol ink. Don't know why I stopped it there. You can't see anything, but it is from the Tim Holtz Ranger line and it is the color Dijon. This works, but now it's a little bit too yellow. I want to tone that down and bring a little warmth to it. So I grab Sienna from the same alcohol ink line, and that's like a warm brown. I don't show you that one either. I have no idea why I didn't or what I was thinking, but I promise that is Sienna. I want to do just a very little bit, but it ended up being a full drop anyhow. And yeah, it got on my desk. I don't know what it is about the Tim Holtz alcohol inks, but they stain everything, so be careful. I will be doing just the bones and the skulls. I end up having extra resin, so I pour the raven skulls as well, and as you can see, I've already poured the bat wings from something else. I have to say that I love this mold. It's a Finnabair mold, and I don't know if you have any experience with them. It's technically meant for fondant, I believe. It would work with clay and polymer clay as well. It works just fine with resin, but it's matte. So a lot of people don't like that. I personally think it works fantastically for Halloween or creepy items, and this is my favorite Halloween mold. I am so excited for Halloween. It is my favorite holiday, and I can't wait to decorate my yard and my house. These are all nicely cured, and I'll go ahead and take them out of the mold. I do end up needing to trim some of them, but for the most part, they're okay. Yeah, at this point, I'm looking at the bones, and I'm like, wow, these are all femurs. They're all the same bone. I don't think it matters and I don't think anybody else would notice, but I'm kind of shocked that I've had this mold for so long and I never realized that. I definitely want to age these bones and the skull a little bit, so I decide I'm going to use a brown alcohol ink pen to do that. So I go through my cards and I decided I wanted to do more of a cool brown rather than a warm brown. And so I pick the color I think will work the best and I start to color them in. I don't do the whole thing, I'm focusing on the edges and just a little in the center. You'll see what I do with this later in order to help the entire bone look nice and aged. I think it turns out really great. Now, don't be an Erica when you're using alcohol ink or alcohol ink pens. Make sure you wear gloves because I'm still wearing brown alcohol ink on my hands. It does eventually come off, but it takes a little bit of time and I kind of look like I've been playing in the dirt. You can see Mr. Kitschy sneak in with my drink here on the left-hand side. And he brings me my drink in my Beetlejuice tumbler. If you haven't seen that video, you should definitely go watch it. It's from last Halloween time. And this is my favorite tumbler that I've ever made. Now I'm going through and I'm just putting some of that brown on the skull and I'm following pretty much the lower parts of the skull where you would see a little bit more sort of accumulation of dirt and grime. Now you can see what I'm doing in order to weather and sort of age the entire bone. I take a paper towel with a little bit of alcohol on it and I just sort of rub the alcohol ink that's on there around. This is where I got my hands really dirty. Totally fine though, and worth it because I think this looks so cool. I do end up adding a little bit of darker brown to the skull. You can see that here. I just wanted it to have a little extra. And I decided I wanted to put some creepy eyes in it, so I grabbed a couple of black rhinestones. Now, because these are going in resin, you won't really see the sparkle anymore, but they'll definitely look creepy. I do place those in there with UV resin, so I need to cure that. And I had laid this on resin tape, which is used to typically back open bezels so that you can put UV resin inside the bezel and not have it run everywhere. Here I'm doing a dry fit of the bones just to see where I might want to have them. And then I tack them in place using the same UV resin. Since these are going face down, I only put the resin on the highest parts that will actually be touching the initial smoke layer of resin in the axolotl. I'm using the black Let's Resin alcohol ink again, and I'm reusing a cup. So the color that you see in there has long since cured. And I'm just tinting this layer with one drop. I want it to be gray, but not dark gray. I want to make sure you can still see the smoke. If I backed it in anything darker than this, you probably wouldn't see the smoke anymore. And frankly, I'm a little worried you might not be able to see it even with this really, really pale gray, but you'll at least be able to see it from the side. And this will go in the curing machine for a couple of hours. For the final layer, I'll be using this Arteza mica powder in the color Champagne. I wanted it to be a little bit shimmery, but I wanted it to be kind of off-white, and this is a really good color for that. Now, you know you have to stir the crap out of resin when you have mica powder in it. And you also want to wait and let bubbles come up because those bubbles can trap unmixed mica powder. I find this brand of mica powder to be exceptionally difficult to mix in. You can see there what I'm talking about. Those little bubbles kept coming up. I think I babysat this thing for about 5 minutes before I decided to pour it in. Okay, I can see this bubble in the tail, and so I get long tweezers that are actually pretty blunt at the end, so they're not sharp, and I try to fish it out. It's still there. This bubble fought me like it had money on the match. I am telling you, it took me so long to get that bubble out, but I finally did it. If I have a bubble in there when I unmold this thing, I'm going to be so annoyed.
Mrs. Kitschy has tasked me with unmolding the axolotl, and she's asked me to do it before coffee. This could be a strategic error on her part. There are no guarantees I can do anything correctly before coffee.
Same, honey. I really appreciate him doing this, though. I fight with this so much harder than he does.
He has a foot. The demolding is afoot.
Yeah. It's the combination of the tail and the gills that makes this really difficult. I've seen a lot of people take the tail out first, which is what Mr. Kitschy eventually does, but it really stretches the mold, and I'm always kind of worried I'm going to tear it. I'm also concerned at this point that you're really not going to be able to see the smoke, and I had mentioned that earlier. I was correct. You really can't see it. So when I do this kind of thing again, I'm going to use much darker black in the resin. There are bubbles underneath where the skull was in the eye sockets and the nose. It kind of adds to the creep factor in my opinion. Axolotl kiss. All in all, I'm pretty happy with this. I think the technique is really cool and I can't wait to try this in other molds. And here it is, all done and on display. I do really like it. I think it looks great. A couple of things I would do differently next time. I would definitely make the black of the smoke darker. And rather than tinting the color of the resin that I pour around the bones, I think I would just leave it clear. I would also try to do a better job to get bubbles out from under the skull. I think it would also be really cool to do the final pour layer, trying to make it look a little bit like fire and going heavier with the smoke effect. You'll have to let me know what you think in the comments. I hope you liked my axolotl, and don't forget to watch all of the other amazing videos in the Alotl Axolotls collaboration playlist. Have an awesome rest of your weekend. Thanks so much for watching. Take care, my kitschy cats and kittens, and I'll see you soon.